Hey everybody, today we're going to go over Chapter 9, Review Problems 1 through 8. Then after that, I'm going to do 8 or 9 more problems the day after that. And then we're going to finish the rest on Wednesday. Okay, so everything, you have 25 problems on here, all 25 of them, I'll go over them about 8 per day. And then we'll have your test on Thursday. All right, so let's just get started here. Before we begin, I highly advise you guys to not watch this video until you've attempted the problems, because your test was going to look like this. You really want to be challenged and to see if you remember how to do this or not, or do these types of problems, because you'll see this on the test. All right, so I guess let's just get started. Number 1 says Jen is investigating a quadratic function, g of x. She writes 4 different forms of the function as shown below. Select the form that reveals the maximum value of g of x without having to be rewritten. Right, so when it talks about the maximum value, you know that it's going to be a parabola that's pointing downwards, because that's the highest point, therefore that's the highest, or the maximum value. Right, so if you're looking at all of these A, B, C, D options, this one's going to tell you our zeros. This one is just the equation. This one is a factor form of that equation. But this one is our vertex form. The vertex form is going to give us our H and K, also known as, in this case, our maximum. So it's going to be A. All right, let's move over to number 2. What is the maximum of the function? So here we actually have to solve this. So again, this problem, that negative right there, should go down to the next line. I apologize for that. So if I want to know the maximum, again, it's going to look like that. So I need to find the vertex. So if I'm going to find the vertex, well, I need to use a vertex formula. If you recall, it's negative b over 2a. So my b is 20, my a is negative 1. So that's going to be my x value of my vertex is negative b over 2a. And b is going to be 20, a is going to be negative 1. Okay? And then this is going to simplify to positive 10. Again, that's my x value. And you're going to think that the answer is C. But, however, if this was a graph, and if that's 10, that doesn't tell you how high or how low that goes. All right? It just tells you the x value. So to tell me how high or how low this point actually is, I need to find my y value. So 10 is the wrong answer. Okay, so you're actually going to have to plug in this equation, plug in your x value into that equation. So it's going to be y equals a negative x squared plus 20 times 10. Okay, so when we're doing this, we're doing your exponents first. So that's a negative times 100 plus 200. And that's going to give me, 100. So my y value is 100, and therefore the answer is D. All right, so that is a tricky one. Let's move on to question number 3. At a local aquarium, a dolphin propelled itself out of the water during a show. If it took the dolphin exactly 4 seconds to re-enter, what was the dolphin's initial velocity the moment it left the water? And then it gives you the formula. Okay, so again, at this point, if you have not attempted this problem, this is a very challenging problem that requires some solid critical thinking here. Okay, so if you haven't attempted it, pause it, come back. If you have attempted it, let's take a look. Now, I have a dolphin going out of the water, right? And it says it took the dolphin exactly 4 seconds to re-enter. So if this is 4 seconds, right, the dolphin starts there and it goes up and comes down 4 seconds later. So how high is this? This is going to be the height, right? And the question is asking, what was the dolphin's initial velocity? Now, you're thinking, oh, how do I find velocity? I'm not even sure what velocity is. Maybe I don't even know what it is, but hopefully you understand that that's v, right? And if it says 4 seconds, seconds is a measurement of time. So we've got 4 seconds there. And the last thing you need to understand is it says, what was the dolphin's initial velocity the moment it left the water? So the moment it left the water is right there. Okay, and that point is 0, 0. Okay, so if that point is 0, 0, that's going to be your height, right? So that means your height value is 0. So when you're actually solving this, let me create some space over here. When you're solving this, your h value is going to be 0 equals negative 16t squared plus v times, in this case, it's going to be 4. T is going to be 4 because that's how many seconds it's been out of the water. Okay, so we're going to solve this. Again, we're going to do 4 squared, which is 16. Negative 16 times 16 is a negative 256, or plus 4v. V times 4 is 4v, right? And then we're going to subtract 256 on both sides. We're going to get 256 equals 4v. Divide both sides by 4, and you get 64 is your velocity. And therefore, is your, your velocity. So it's going to be C as your answer. Okay, so that is a challenging question. Let's move over to question number 4. Which of the following is a graph of that line? So it's a linear equation, pretty straightforward. Lots of different ways to look at this. You can plug in your zeros to find your intercepts. For example, if you're to find your x-intercept is where y equals 0. So if you substitute a 0 for y, that will cancel and you get 3x equals 8. Therefore, x equals 8/3. Okay, so that's your x-intercept. And then you could do the same thing to find your y-intercept. To find your y-intercept, your y-intercept is where x equals 0. So 3 times 0 is gone, so therefore divide both sides by negative 2, y equals negative 4. So you're asking yourself, all right, where's my graph that gives me those two intercepts, a y-intercept of the negative 4 and an x-intercept of 8/3, which is 2 2/3. And you'll see that your answer is right there, which is graph C. So if you're comfortable doing it that way, by all means, go for it. Otherwise, I would just do this. Take that equation, put it in slope-intercept form. So I'm going to subtract 3x on both sides. So I get 2y equals negative 3x plus 8. Then I'm going to divide both sides by negative 2. Therefore, y equals positive 3/2 minus 4. And there it is. There's a minus 4. And your slope is rise 3, run 2, right there. Okay, so whatever you prefer, choose that method. All right, next one, number 5. It says a few students are having a bake sale to raise more than $600 for a class trip. They sell cupcakes C for $2 each and pies P for $5 each. If the students have already sold at least 30 cupcakes, which of the following systems of inequalities represent the situation? So this one, a little bit tricky. If you look at all the possible answers, they look very similar, right? The only differences are the inequalities. We know that it's going to be 2C, we're going to have a 5P, 600, we're going to have a C, and a 30. So the question is, all right, well, what exactly, which inequalities are we dealing with exactly? So we have to go back and read this. It says raise more than. They're trying to raise more than 600. Okay, that means they cannot be equal to. Okay, if they were equal to as well, then it would say raise at least 600, but it doesn't say at least 600. The wording is very specific. They want more than 600. So if they get 600, they don't meet their goal. They need to exceed 600, right? So automatically I can cancel out A and I can cancel out C because the inequality is greater than or equal to. All right, the second part says, where's the second part? Okay, if the students have already sold at least 30, that means they could sell 30 or more than that. Okay, so they've already sold 30, they can't sell any less, so therefore your answer is going to be B. It's going to be C is greater than or equal to 30, because if you got at least 30, you've got 30 and more. Okay? All right, let's go down to number 6. Which of the following values for x are solutions to this quadratic equation? So basically, you're going to add 6 to both sides, set it equal to 0. You can solve this one of two ways. You can factor, or you can use a quadratic formula. But those are probably the two easiest ways. You can probably solve by completing the square or something. I would just factor this. This factors easily into x plus 2 times x plus 3 using the zero product property. Now we set x plus 2 equals 0, x plus 3 equals 0. Here we have x equals negative 2, there we have x equals negative 3, and there are your answers. All right, let's go to number 7. If you look at number 7, it's in the quadratic formula. The responses, the answers are in the form of the quadratic formula. So that should be a big hint to you to use a quadratic formula. Sorry about this formatting here. These words are being misaligned like that. I don't know what happened exactly, but let's just solve this real quickly. I guess that's not too important. You can figure this out. You can figure that word is apply. So we have negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. Okay. So again, take a second just to say a equals 2, b equals negative 1, c equals 5. And it'll save you a little bit of headache down the line. So our b value is negative 1, a value is 2, and c value is 5. All right. And negative times a negative 1 is 1, plus or minus the square root of 1, negative 1 squared is 1, minus 4 times 2 is 6, or excuse me, 8 times 5 is 40, all over 4. All right? So we're to clean this up, it's 1 plus or minus the square root of negative 39, all over 4. So right there, and again, this is that funky formatting again. That looks like it's a strike through on that 9, but it's not. It's really a I times square root of 39. So you recall we talked briefly in the last unit about getting square roots of negative numbers. So let me just talk about that again real quickly. If I have the square root of a negative 9, my factors of the square root of a negative 9 are negative 39, or excuse me, the factors of negative 39 are 39 and negative 1. So the square root of 39 times the square root of negative 1 gives me the square root of negative 39. Right? But if you recall, the square root of a negative 1, it has to be exactly negative 1. The square root of that is called I. So this simplifies into I radical 39. Okay? And that's what you see right there. So therefore D is your answer, because that 4 goes into the 1 and it goes into the radical 30, square root of 39 as well, or I square root of 39. Okay, so it says to select 3 that apply. There's your first one. Let's see, what else? A is another one. Okay, B is not it because the negative's on the outside of the radical symbol. Okay, B is not it. And then C is our other answer. So C is what we got here before I split it up into 2 different fractions. Okay, so it should be ACD. All right, one more problem. Let's go to number 8. Number 8 says, based on the linear equality shown in the graph below, which of the following points are solutions to this linear inequality? Select 3 that apply. So this one's pretty straightforward, right? let's just plot all these points. Negative 3 comma 0 right there. So that's not it. 7 comma negative 5. 7 comma negative 5 is about right there. Okay, that's good. 4 comma 1 right there. That's good. Negative 2 comma 6. Oops, negative 2 comma 6 is right there. That is not good. And then negative 1 comma negative 8 right there. That's good. You know it's good when it's in the shaded region. All right, so that's going to conclude problems 1 through 8. Come back tomorrow. We'll do 8 or 9 more. And again, if you have questions, shoot me an email or stop by our Google Meet or set up an appointment with me. All right, guys, have a great day. I will see you soon. Bye.